at the effectiveness of hypermedia in the case of a hypothetical oil spill in Puget Sound. We can read about what we need to do, but also we need to, in fact, review some graphics. In this case, let's look at deflection booming, which is appropriate in a tidal situation. Also, we should look at shore absorbance, which can be used to pick up the oil. But perhaps most importantly, we need to know more about the area. And to do this, let's do a video flyby of Puget Sound.
This is hypermedia, the ability to link related ideas in the form of text, graphics, or even full-motion video on your personal computer. We're seeing an implementation here on an IBM PS2 using a product called Guide from OWL International. Hypermedia and hypertext have grown up quite a bit since the original introduction of Hypercard several years ago. In fact, now there are many competitive products that can bring hypertext to your Macintosh or your PC. Today, we take a look at hypertext on this edition of the Computer Chronicles.
The Computer Chronicles is made possible in part by the Software Publishers Association, which reminds you it's a federal offense to copy software. The SPA provides information on how to stay software legal. Funding is also provided by PC Connection and Mac Connection, and by Byte Magazine and Bix.
Welcome to the Computer Chronicles. I'm Stuart Chaffee, and this is Gary Kildall. And Gary, this is a dictionary, as you will recognize, but this is also a dictionary, which you may not recognize, the American Heritage Electronic Dictionary. And what's nice about this and makes it so much more valuable than the old-fashioned version is it has a hypertext engine in it called search text. If I'm looking, for example, I want to know what the word is for a particular part of a sailboat, I just don't know enough to know what to look up in this dictionary. In this dictionary, with search text, I can say, show me all the words that contain the words sailing and part in the definition, and boom, out would pop the word going backwards that I'm looking for. Now, I talked about hypertext describing this, and we talk about Hypercard. The question I have for you is, how do those two concepts relate?
Well, Stuart, the fundamental difference as far as the user is concerned is the speed at which you can do that retrieval. And in the case of a static database like a dictionary like this, in one edition, the word positions don't change, so you can go through and pre-compute, put it in tables where all the words, the word of sailing or mast occurs, and you take those lists when you do a lookup and you merge them, and very quick access into the database itself and pops right up. You pre-compute it on a static database. Now, in the case of Hypercard's original concept, the idea is that the database changes all the time. In order to look up something, you've got to search from the top, essentially down to the bottom. So the length of the database really determines how long the retrieval time takes. So the essential thing is it's a time of access.
Okay. Well, today we'll take a look at the new upgrade to Hypercard version 2.0, and we'll see several hypertext products that bring Hypercard-type power to the PC platform. One example is a hypertext authoring system from Folio called Previews. It's being used right now at Novell in Sunnyvale, California. Monica Jane has a report.
Good morning, product information.
Thanks to Hypertext, this customer call will last only a few minutes. Novell reps use an online pre-sales information tool called NetGuide. It provides connectivity solutions by accessing product data sheets, diagrams, and other database files. The reps can access product information such as part number and customer shipping date from one screen. They can even branch out to other related topics, including compatibility information, product upgrades, and press announcements within a few minutes.
The linking of the information within NetGuide provides the ability to allow the user to follow a train of thought and at certain specific points branch into other areas within that same product.
Stanzac customized a hypertext authoring system called Previews to create NetGuide. Before that, Novell relied on printed brochures to answer customer questions about its products. But with hundreds of products, each having their own files and upgrade information, that was not an easy task.
What we do with Novell is we have information that's rapidly changing, and we need to be able to make those changes within a hypertext document on the fly virtually. And with Previews and hypertext technology, we get that capability.
Using NetGuide, Novell's Sunnyvale office alone handles over 150 calls a day, and the duration of each call has been cut down dramatically.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for calling. Bye-bye.
For the Computer Chronicles, I'm Monica Jane.
The new upgrade of Hypercard version 2.0 is now on the market, and here to show off its new features is Carl May of Apple Computer. Also with us, we're going to take a look at Hyperties from Cognetics Corporation, and we have with us the president of Cognetics, Dr. Charles Kreitzberg. Gary?
Carl, this says Hypercard 2.0. It looks like we've got a new version of Hypercard. Why did you go to a new version? What's happened? What's going on with it?
It's been out for 3 years, and what we wanted to do is we wanted to extend it. And then we wanted to extend it in 2 ways. We wanted to make it more of a serious developer's tool, so that that back wall that people tended to hit sometimes with Hypercard as a serious development tool goes away. At the same time, we wanted to make it easier for people who are non-programmers to be able to put together stacks with intelligent hypermedia navigation.
Well, what were some of the problems with the previous version of Hypercard?
Well, it depended what application you were in, but essentially Hyperscript is a nice language, and you can extend it with things called X commands. And the X commands were taking over from the main program loop of Hypercard. You go out, you do an X command, and Hypercard was no longer running the loop, and when an X command was done, it come back. What we've done now is the main program loop continues, it sends information to the X command sends information back, but the main program loop can continue.
Okay, so there's improvements like at the systems level in a sense that really help out. Can we take a look at Hypercard too?
Okay, first thing you'll notice is that we have a full page. This is one of the major areas of work, variable card sizes, any size, 64, 64 by 1280, 1280. You have multiple windows open, more than one stack at a time. Styled text in the text fields, hot text, which I'm going to demonstrate in depth, better printing, and enhanced HyperTalk. We've made it much easier to do things like color and stuff. Right now, I'm going to hop over to the Hypertext features. This is one of the features of Hypercard. Hypercard's really multimedia. But with Hypertext, we wanted to have a system that had few design restraints, something that you just click on a word, something happens, like that. Now here, what we've done is we have words which are bold, words which are italics, and a word itself. When I click on any bold word, I get a boing. When I click on an italic word, I get up my help window. When I click on flash, the word, the screen flashes. If I were to go in and change flash to bold, I would get the boing and the flash at the same time. Now, the reason we did it that way, the reason that we're not using sticky buttons, we're not using button words.
Let me stop for just a second. I don't exactly see the value of having the boldface thing go boing. What's the purpose of that?
Well, what we're doing there is we're just demonstrating that what you can do is create a hyperlink, not by a word, but a style of a word. And that hyperlink can then go in one or
it can be connected to anything if you like.
Anything, you could have everything bold, launch a connect system.
Exactly, okay.
Now here, because we're not using sticky buttons, we're actually returning the value of the letters and then acting on that value. We've had to design a new text style. Down here you'll notice that we're getting the words that we click on, and we have 3 Georges, and there's no way to tell the 3 apart. So what I'm going to do is open that field and select George Harrison and turn that into a new text style, which is group. Then I'll close the field. Locked fields are the ones that have hypertext capabilities. Now I get George Harrison as a whole word, and I can act on that signal. I also can have a large text file where there are multiple instances of George Harrison. Every time I click on them, I will get that script.
Now, Carl, one final question. One of the problems with the Hypercard before was a problem of searching and in a sense, there was no pre-computation of the text links. Is that done now with Hypercard?
Hypercard is a development environment, so if you want pre-computation of text links, that's something you would script into it, but it'd be much easier to do now because of the click word. We have ways to recognize where we are in the text field.
Right. Charlie, I want to turn to you in Hyperties, which is your Hypertext product, and Gary asked you to turn on the monitor there for his machine. You've got a big stack of papers there, and I assume you wanted to make a point with that, Charlie.
Stuart, that stack of papers represents about 10% of the knowledge base that Union Carbide brought us and asked us to create an interactive knowledge encyclopedia, which is the kind of thing that Hyperties does well, because TIES stands for the Interactive Encyclopedia System.
All right, let's get to it and show us how you did that, Charlie.
The good news was that a lot of this was available as electronic files because it was word processed. Some had to be scanned. Which is what we're seeing now. Which is what you're seeing there. And what we did was we marked up those files with some of the commands that we used to indicate how they are to be cross-linked. We then ran it through our auto import program, which takes that information and will do 10, 20, 100, or in one case we recently had 20,000 articles that had to be run through and creates the electronic database. Our mission, I should say, is to create the electronic book, to take the book from a static paper-based environment to a dynamic electronic environment. And in a couple of seconds, when it gets to the end of this, you'll be able to see the electronic book that's being created out of this
what's it
data.
doing here, Charlie? What are we watching?
It's adding articles and creating links, and occasionally giving me something in red, warning me that there's a link that hasn't been defined, so that I can go back and fix that up later. And the end result of this process is the electronic book you're about to see on the screen, which is all the information about this particular product line. This is the cover. I can open the cover, and it takes me to a preface. And the look and feel, by the way, is totally under the control of the author. The design department of Cognetics picked this up. All I have to do to get around it is to move this bar, which I can do with a mouse, a touch screen, or the keyboard, and I can go to an article. Anything in blue is a link to additional information. So I've gone from that to a new article. This article has a graphic embedded in it. I might go take a look at, let's say, fermentation process, and that gives me a detailed diagram of that process. Or I can come up and easily backtrack with a keystroke and look at other elements.
Okay. Charlie, do you handle anything besides raster images? I notice this is a raster image here. Do you handle vector images?
Not at the present time. They're all bitmapped, and you can use something like TIFF files or PC Paintbrush files.
Charlie, what kinds of other applications do you see for your approach to hypertext here besides the big mega corporate manual?
Well, it's been used from everything for a simple product catalog sent to insurance agents. Citicorp recently used it for their annual technology report. We've used it for public access kiosks as well. We've used it in several museum installations.
You just take any book and turn it into your electronic...
Or you create new electronic books, and you can add video and you can add audio as well.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much. One of the nice things, as you know, about Hypercard is not only can you manage information, data, graphics, sound inside your computer, but it's also a great controller for processes taking place outside your computer. A perfect example is the Apple TV studio in Cupertino, California, where everything runs under Hypercard. Monica Jane reports.
This studio has all the wizardry and gadgets you'd find in any television studio. But here at Apple TV, when the crew needs to fine-tune the facilities, they don't turn to an engineer, they turn to Hypercard. This Hypercard application is designed to control all the studio equipment here. With a click of the mouse, the studio's routing system can be quickly changed to any pre-designed setup. Lights can be dimmed and even audio levels raised through the Hypercard control panel.
It really takes the power of the Hypercard and uses it to put the power in the hands of a person. So they don't have to know little mnemonics about what device is connected to what, but can look at a screen and double-click and make these connections simply.
The beauty of the Hypercard studio control system is that the production people don't always have to go running after an engineer to solve a problem.
With a very little bit of training, we can have a producer or a technical director come in, log on under their own name and have their own little environment that's gives them the tools they need to change the way the still store is set up, the production switcher is set up, the prompting system, the way the monitors are laid out, then store those changes. This has reduced the amount of time the engineer has to handhold to a bare minimum. It's really made a big difference for us.
But when an engineer is needed, he can troubleshoot from home by simply dialing into the system and doing a query. The Hypercard front end displays all the functions currently selected and can backtrack to locate the source of the problem. The Hypercard Run TV studio is used mainly for in-house productions at Apple, but it's clear that the same system could work wonders at any television station or production facility. For the Computer Chronicles, I'm Monica Jane.
There are an increasing number of products that compete with Hypercard now. We're going to talk about two of them with the help of Tom Cooter from Spinnaker Software, and also with us Bill Nyson, president of OWL International. Gary?
Bill, I understand, it's kind of interesting that I didn't realize that Guide was really the first implementation of a Hypercard concept, and that was with OWL International. Is that correct?
That's right.
Can you tell us a little bit about the development of that, how it came about and so forth?
Oh, surely. We introduced Guide for the Macintosh back in 1986. It was an outgrowth of some work that was done at the University of Kent in Canterbury, England, we were actually exploring ways in which we could add value to text displays. And this was in conjunction with Dr. Peter John Brown. Basically, what we were trying to come up with was ways in which we could enhance the value of the information coming off of the screen. And our research led to really almost a juxtaposition, really, with work that had already been done in the United States in hypertext.
What is your feeling about the value of hypertext? Why is it a valuable tool?
Hypertext is, yeah, Hypertext, Hypercard, Plus, what these really represent, new ways of managing and presenting information. In the old days, what we were doing, we were looking at ways in which we could actually put information into models that were really efficient to be processed by machines. Really, where hypertext comes from is looking at a new way of presenting this information in a way that keys on the relationships between the information items. And in fact, what we'll see in many of the new hypertext type products or hypermedia type products will be a complete object orientation. And that's certainly one of the ways that we're progressing with our technology.
And you're focusing on the multimedia aspect, really, of using hypertext there, aren't you, with Guide?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we are very concerned about is trying to empower users to use information effectively. If it be with full motion video or animation or sound, stereophonic sound, so much the better. But really, if the implementation is done correctly, it really doesn't matter what data types you're using in your hypertext models, they will in fact be able to be manipulated and displayed.
Okay. Tom, let's turn now to you, and it's interesting. Guide, you said, started out as a Mac product, now you run it in the PC world. And you're sort of in both worlds here with Plus, I guess. First of all, position Plus for us vis-a-vis a Hypercard, a Hyperties, a Supercard, and so on.
Well, Spinnaker Plus started out as a superset of Hypercard on the Mac only. But very quickly we saw the world moving to a multi-platform situation with Macintoshes and Windows 3.0, OS2 with Presentation Manager. These graphical user interfaces are prevalent and mixed in many corporate environments. So we thought we would be successful by building a tool that would be able to cross and bridge those three environments.
Okay, and we have two examples right here.
So you've got really Plus up now on two platforms.
Right now I'm showing Plus on the Macintosh on the left side and Plus on Windows 3.0 on the right side. We'll get to Windows in a moment. What I'm showing,
excuse me one second,
sure.
We're running two separate systems here.
Two complete separate computers, both running Plus.
Okay.
Two different versions
of
Plus.
Got it, okay,
right?
Go ahead.
On the left, the benefits planner is an example of an information management type of application that is very nice to be programmed and developed with a hyper-programming type of application like Plus. And for example, we can click on buttons, and this colorful, graphically oriented screen is helping us wander our way or navigate our way through some information, perhaps configuring a benefits plan for a variety of different employees in the company. And so, as you noticed, it's a point-and-click simplicity. The information is there, but the access to it is very, very easy through the push-button mechanisms. And we're using hyperlinks through some of these buttons to move to various different aspects of the information. Let's jump out of the, for a moment, jump out of the application itself and look at the background. This is Plus itself behind the scenes. And let's close this application in a moment.
If you can find it. Here's that little box.
It's hard to see from over there.
Yeah, Parallax problem.
You got it.
There you go.
There it is. Okay, we'll close that application. Let's bring up an application that's underdeveloped, not quite done yet. We have an application here that could perhaps be a telephone message stack that is a collection of telephone messages you might get on your desk. And so how would you create something like this, or how would you continue this development? First, I'm going to move to what's called the background plane, as indicated by those dots at the top of the screen. And what we've got are some labels on the screen for the areas of information that we're going to be manipulating. But I don't have any I don't have any containers for them. So these icons here allow me to create a new data container. This is an object. This is an object-oriented programming system. So I can resize and reposition that object and create the actual containers on the screen for information and add some drop shadow effects and so forth. Over here you see a graphic image, and if we take a look at that in closer, I can double click on that image and find out information about that particular object. And we can see it's a paint object, so it contains a paint graphic. And it has attached to it a script. This is a programming behavior of this particular object. And you can see that the scripting language is very English language-like. In fact, it's a superset of HyperTalk from Hypercard. And simply is putting the date and system date and time into some fields. So using this object-oriented approach, missed the button again there, you can build up a screen display and links between information and end up having custom information management applications very quickly that key into a specific corporate problem or personal.
Now, when you develop one of these applications, say here in the Mac version of Plus right now, and you want to run it under Windows or one of the other platforms, what do you have to do?
It's very simple. It's simply a matter of getting the stack, which is what we call the application that you've created under Plus, moved over to the other platform.
And Plus will translate it on its own?
Yes. Plus is an interpretive environment, so we're using a common file that is able to be read and interpreted by each version of Plus on each of those platforms.
Tom, can you go interchange with Hypercard?
We can, on the Macintosh, directly read Hypercard 1.2 stacks into Plus and convert them to a Plus stack, and of course, once it's a Plus stack, it can be moved to the other platforms. For example,
now how about our other version of Plus?
Over here we have the sort of a more completed version of the telephone message. This is running under Windows 3.0 now, and I transferred this earlier from the Macintosh over to the PC, but I can continue development. I can add additional buttons. I can script those buttons by accessing its information dialog box. I can change the icon of the button. We come with a complete library of icons that allow you to give visual cues to the user as to where your links are going to go and what the action is going to be.
Okay. Bill, somebody in one of the computer magazines recently said hypertext is still a very immature technology with lots of problems to be worked out. What do you see as the next step? What are the problems still? Or what could make it better?
The real problem is the cost to the author. It takes a long time to actually author a hypertext document. We are developing tools. Many of the companies involved with hypertext and hypermedia are developing authoring environments and tools. However, the one thing that is precluding the real wide acceptance of hypertext and hypermedia is adequate broadcast mechanisms. In fact, what we need to do is we need to, in fact, find ways by which we can actually broadcast the results of hypermedia authoring. What we're looking to the future now, of course, is ubiquitous availability of local area networks. We're looking to low-cost digital transmission facilities. Once we can actually put the results of this authoring into the hands of more and more users, we're going to see this industry really explode.
So we're still stuck with paper
well, I'm afraid that paper has been very good for thousands of years. But one of the things that we're exploring right now is that paper works really well, but there are certain things it can't do. It can't make a lot of noise, and it can't show visual images very well. So this is one of the things that we always kind of key on, more of the value added.
All right, Bill, Tom, thank you very much. We're out of time. That's our look at hypertext. Stay tuned now for this week's Computer News.
In the random access file this week, rumors are flying that Apple's new low-cost Mac, the Macintosh Classic, will sell at a street price as low as $700 to $800. Two other models available with color monitors will be listed at about $3,000 and $5,000. Company officials say despite the new low-end systems, Apple is not abandoning its top models. Apple currently has about 9% of the desktop computer market. IBM has announced it's withdrawing 4 of its PS2 models from the market come December. The 4 PCs to be pulled from the shelves include 2 from the Model 30 lineup and 2 from the 80 series. Big Blue also said it is cutting the price on its PS2 8121 by 7%. That model will now sell for slightly below $7,000. Sony Corporation will introduce notebook-sized PCs to the Japanese market later this year. That announcement comes amidst rumors that Sony may produce notebook-sized PCs for Apple to market in the U.S. Sony has confirmed it held talks on a possible tie-up, but said details have not yet been worked out. Meanwhile, Sony competitor Toshiba has come out with a 386-based portable computer that features a color LCD screen. The T5200C has a 200-megabyte hard drive, runs on AC power, and weighs almost 20 pounds. It also carries a hefty price tag of nearly $10,000. 2 other Japanese companies, NEC and Sharp, already have similar products on the market. Taking a look at this week's top 10 software titles for the Mac, Mac Connection reports Sam is in the #1 position, followed by Fulbright. In 3rd is After Dark, with Adobe Type Manager coming in 4th. In 5th place is Microsoft Word 4.0. Rounding out the top 10 titles are Pyro, Correct Grammar, Quicken Mac, Mac Utilities, and Microsoft Excel. Microtech is introducing a printer that uses Microsoft's True Image language. The True Laser printer will be available by December at about $2,700. It comes with 35 resident fonts. The printer is PostScript compatible and can also emulate HP's PCL. Microsoft developed True Image over a year ago as an answer to Adobe Type PostScript, but Microtext True Laser is the first printer to utilize the page description language. Next up, Paul Schindler has this week's software review.
Microsoft Windows 3.0 presents one face on the screen and another face when it comes time to print. If you own a dot matrix or inkjet printer, you'll find that Windows provides few fonts, and they aren't very pretty. So a number of vendors are offering add-on programs that enhance Windows fonts. The best one we've seen is Bitstream's Facelift. Now, it's easy to install. Facelift adds 13 high-quality type fonts to Windows applications like Word for Windows, which we're showing you here. And these are scalable fonts, meaning they can be any size from 6 points up to 128 points. The size depends on how much memory you can make available for font generation. Now, that may mean dedicating 512K to this program, but like most Windows programs, a lot of memory is par for the course. Facelift can translate its own type font names to the ones which are resident in your printer with a built-in names table. Aptly named, this program performs plastic surgery on Windows' stodgy fonts. A major facelift for only $100. For the Computer Chronicles, I'm Paul Schindler.
Microsoft is bundling Excel, Word, and PowerPoint into one package to run on Windows 3.0. The Microsoft Office for Windows will sell for under $1,000. Purchased separately, the programs cost nearly $1,500. And finally, a survey shows that workers supervised by electronic monitors suffer more health problems than those workers with human managers. The University of Wisconsin claims electronically monitored workers reported more aches in their wrists, arms, and necks. The survey said they were also more susceptible to depression, tension, and fatigue than non-monitored workers. Such monitoring is often used in grocery stores and banks. That's it for this week's Computer Chronicles. I'm Kate McGargy.
The Computer Chronicles is made possible in part by the Software Publishers Association, which reminds you it's a federal offense to copy software. The SBA provides information on how to stay software legal. Funding is also provided by PC Connection and Mac Connection, and by Byte Magazine and Bix. For a transcript of this week's Computer Chronicles, send $4 to PTV Publications, Post Office Box 701, Kent, Ohio 44240. Please indicate program date.